What is this shift?
Welcome to
Powered by
Shift Hit the Fan,
Riverside
everybody.
Welcome, welcome. We just had a nice long conversation where we just jumped right into our card, ambition, and we're gonna give our quick introductions and then let you guys dive into what our conversation went into. I'm Elias. I consider myself an alchemy. No, it's a body alchemist. That's what I've been saying. And yeah, we'll go to.
I am Abra. I am a resident physician, currently on my deathbed and loving every minute of it, except most of them.
And
I'm just
Steven?
kidding.
I am Steven, BQH practitioner, consciousness explorer, and just student of life. Just here soaking up the energy and the conversation and spending some time with some beautiful, amazing people.
Solma?
Yeah, thank you. Selma Harwell, and also known as Solma, because I'm a spiritual mastery of medicine energy. And my promise for the world is that motherhood is honored as the source for world peace. Out of every single one of us being nurturers, and we get to nurture each other. Welcome.
There you have it, my friends. Go enjoy our nice conversation and let us know what you think.
Voila.
The two-headed wolf, I want to say right away, is that at first I didn't even see that it was a wolf, and I thought it was only one. And right as you were saying it, I saw it be two.
Yeah, it's two
And
wolves.
two-headed for, yes, everything in life right now. And the power of that, the gift of it, the maybe not so distracted after all, maybe the presence of one and that it's possible to be at peace with both. And even if it's more, I just began looking at, yes, I have so many things that I love, and I don't recognize overwhelm. I just stop and really look at what am I doing now? Doesn't mean I don't forget stuff, forgot major appointment for myself. Went on a call yesterday, 2:00 Zoom, and went and found out that call that I thought I was going to be on was last Tuesday. Missed it by a week. And it was the end of a course. So, it's like getting to really get the importance of holding down everything. I still want to do the things that I have listed and what it's going to take to actually make it work well and have this computer and calendar be my ally. That's what hit me about that. Besides that, though, the fact that I wasn't even looking at ambition. It seems funny that I couldn't see that out of that. I saw that it was Italian. My whole focus right now is Italy. And I see the place that we will have. I see the place that we have. And so I keep, like this weekend, met two people from Italy. And they're just people that I loved almost immediately in this event that we had here. So many new, great people. And why we thought of starting a church in a conversation when then Aryan agrees. Aryan and I haven't talked about it. And then I told him 2 days before, I thought, I ought to have a church. I didn't know what kind or anything. And then Aryan said 4 days before he thought about that. So that's awesome. Anyway,
Wow.
and that all fits in ambition, I guess.
Yeah.
Ambitione.
Yeah, I like what you said about the yes and, with both the wolves, because I get the sense that, especially, putting it in the context of ambition, the figure on the horse is, representing strength, well protected, prepared, and yet the wolf is at his back. He's not facing the wolf. Yeah, he's looking back. He's aware of the wolf and prepared to do battle with it if necessary. But if not, it looks like he's ready to let it be and just go on about his ambition, his business. And so for me, it just kind of represents some of the wolves, so to speak, that I could get caught up in on my journey, trying to battle with and fight with, when I can just be aware of and then keep my focus forward, keep on moving forward. He's prepared for, like, going far. He doesn't have any pack or food or anything, but he's on the horse, so he's ready for a journey. He's ready to go to any lengths, to meet his goals, desires.
I was gonna say it reminds me of that whole like be responsible for your past, but not given by it, because he's sort of glancing over his shoulder. He knows the wolves are there, but he's so like ready for this wherever he's going that the wolves don't even care. They're not even looking in his direction. They're looking this way. They're looking that way. And it's like when you are so clear, you're so certain about where you're going, it doesn't matter your whole and like Danielle has said this a couple of episodes ago. When you know something about yourself, and I don't remember exactly how she said it. It's like the whole universe behaves that way because she felt so safe on her way home. Remember that story? Feeling so safe on her way home, and other people were worried and everything, but she knew she was going to make it home safe because she felt the communication from the universe. Yeah, this is that. It also reminds me of like my relationship to dogs in the past. I mean, I haven't been really around them now, but it's shifted. I used to have this where I used to hate them at the time, but I had this really commanding like relationship with them where like I could turn my back on an aggressive dog after it's literally come to charge towards me, and I just gave it a firm no, and it stopped in its tracks, either ran back to where it came from or just sat there and barking, and I could just turn away. And they say don't ever turn away from a dog because that's when he'll run at you. But I was able to walk away like if nothing. So it's like having that level of certainty in your and he's standing there. He's not even moving forward. So yeah, that level of certainty that you have, that you're so certain in the uncertain. He's not even going anywhere. He knows he doesn't have to go anywhere. He's already sitting there, and he's on the vehicle that's going to take him there. Noble steed, another living being. What another thing that stood out about the wolves is they're almost identical. They almost look like one. If you weren't paying attention, it does look like a two-headed wolf. But then you see that the other one's got legs as well, the front legs.
I wasn't paying attention. It literally looked like only one because you see his head fits right in the body of the other one.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, but
that
I didn't see it
oneness.
second.
Until
I
I
didn't
called
notice
it
the wolves at all at first, so it took me a second for that.
Yeah, well, you're totally like the dude. Didn't even know there was wolves, right? The first thing that I saw was the horse's iron wiener, but it's not. It's the guy's other foot. I'm like, oh wait, and I see the other foot. It's like, nope, that's not what I thought it was. I was like, wow,
It's one ambitious horse you got there.
yeah, that horse is iron. Yeah, a lot of certainty in this as well. I like this the certainty in being ambitious and so certain that you can just sit there and wait and let the universe tell you where to go.
What I really like about this, there's a thought that came up just earlier. So in one of my discussions with my trainer, can you guys hear me? All right, cool. One of my discussions with my trainer, I remember talking to him about feeling angry or feeling some sort of emotion. Like I had some sort of emotion. He's like, well, what if you could put that emotion towards something? Like what can you put that emotion towards? Where can you, like, say you have that anger? What if you have anger and you don't need to use it for an actual explosive angry session? What if you put that towards some sort of creativity or something? Like what can you create with the emotion that you have, with the energy that you have? And so I had that same thought come up today where on Sunday I was frustrated about not being able to to get things done in our house that we're trying to sell right now. And then I put that emotion into creating the shelf that I'm trying to build. And I had so much fun, so much like engagement in this activity, and it just let it all out, and I felt great afterwards. And so what this kind of reminds me of is that, yeah, we had these demons, we had this negative thing, or this emotion, this dark emotion, or any kind of emotion really. And can we put that towards our ambition? Can we get on our high horse and put our sword on and say, cool, I'm going to use this to create something. I'm going to go pursue my passion. I'm going to go be ambitious towards the thing that feeds me, that feels good and in alignment. And so I think for me, it's like there's always options of what do you want to do with that emotion, with those things that are hiding in the background, in the shadows.
I love that you called them demons, though, because if you notice that they're black, but their eyes are gold,
Yep.
Yeah.
right? And it's like light, So it's like it's something that I've been saying is like where what we put in the shadows is like the best of ourselves, and we're so afraid of it for that same like Marianne Williamson, because we're so afraid of the light, we're so afraid of our own light, and that's why we avoid our shadows, and we've been, I guess, sort of conditioned to avoid ourselves and going within, because it's all the stuff that we've suppressed as kids, like when we were just being ourselves, and it was not appropriate to however the other person's expectations were. We suppressed that, all of our gifts, all of our talents, everything that that we just like, nope, that's not appropriate, do not be that. And but it's all the best of us in there that we have called it dark and bad and made it our shadows. Because like you just pointed out, Lies, you can take that and turn it into something amazing, right? Like you can refocus that energy, because it's not bad energy, it's not negative, it's not really like a negative, it's not something to be afraid of. You can
It's
see
it's just humanity. It's being alive. It's expressing in all the different ways that we express.
Yeah. If you look at the wolves, they're also like, they may look scary, but their position, like their body language is really tame as well. So it's like it's just the appearance of it reminds me of me.
When you mentioned Marianne Williamson's quote, it's about our power. And it is the way you described it, Elias, was, can you put that into something else? Yeah. It's our power that we're afraid of. And so with that fear, we've made it bad. And like you said, it isn't bad. It's just what we end up calling it, because it's, for one thing, maybe even we don't want to deal with it. But mostly we're like, oh, that I can't be that powerful. I'm just asserting that. Then I'm also seeing how, the guy is really protected already. He's already protected. That's part of his certainty. And that's just like almost, let's look at the drawing. You can hardly see his eyes, but he's in a stance of like looking out of the corner of his eye. He's just barely turned. And that stance is a warning to the wolves. And they're actually almost like cowering a little, like that, like they got the message, like you were saying, but it's like in that cowering. And also, like you said, Stephen, there's that place that I got from what you said, that he doesn't have things with him, but he's going on a journey. Then that's the trust.
Mhm.
He's gonna be provided for. And it's not about anything else, but like we're protected, we're provided, we're ready to go. And yeah, that stuff is going to be there, and we're going to be able to have it be our fuel, as they say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think all three of those things kind of come together really perfectly. Like he's trained and prepared, but yet he's also just trusting. that something has his back, and everything will be provided. And, he's directing that energy, the sword, it's a very direct weapon, forceful weapon. So, he's ready to direct that energy forward. It kind of reminds me of watching, I fell down there, watching last week's episode after I left. You guys got into that really awesome conversation just about sexual energy and directing that. And, for a lot of people, even that is demonized, or, through trauma it has been skewed. And, there's so many aspects of that that are considered dark, and so just learning to bring all these energies to light and redirect them. Anger, it's explosive. I get scared of it sometimes when I just let it loose and don't direct it, or, bridle it and channel it into the proper place. So yeah, I love that.
It's interesting to see that in my own life, and to see how, like, my own navigations of not being afraid of things anymore. Like, I stopped being afraid of sexual things and stopped being afraid of, like, drugs. And so I tried mushrooms, and I tried tobacco, and I tried THC, and I tried those things just to see what it was. And I think mushrooms, that they gave me some help in a lot of ways. And then through all of that, I just realized I like my mind. I like just being able to feel what it is to just be human. And even in further, like, going through a divorce right now, and that scared my ex-wife. Times, there was a dark time in my life where I was depressed and very emotionless. And then suddenly I had these outbursts of anger. And the last two times that I remember getting angry and having outbursts at really my daughters, because one was screaming, and she's got a voice like no other. And I stopped screaming, and it scared her. But afterwards, like, those last two times, because of the work that I've been doing, I was able to say, I just lost my temper. I just lost myself. I'm going to fix this. I've let my energy out. Now it's time to return with love. And so I was able to go in there and love my daughter and ask for forgiveness, say that I'm sorry. And then we just held each other. And I just told her, like, I had a big emotional experience. And now I want you to know that I still love you. And I'm sorry that I've done this. And so I love that I've been able to turn these things around because of the work that I've done, and say, yeah, I did this, and I'm not afraid of it. And if this hurt you, let's find a way to find that love again, to find that ability to come back together and heal. And you let your emotions out too. Let me know what you felt, and I'll let you know that, it's safe, so that you can figure that out for yourself too. But all of those things are like, yeah, we are human. We have big emotions sometimes, and we don't need to be afraid of all these different topics. And given there's a lot of things to be afraid of out there, and I've had plenty of conversations with people where they're like, yeah, but there's so much darkness in the world. Yeah, there's darkness, but that darkness doesn't need to be here all the time. Like right now, I'm not being faced with darkness. So how can I find that ability to relax and deal with what's right in front of me?
There's darkness in us all the time, but we don't always have to focus on those parts and aspects. Sometimes we want to just sit in what's comfortable.
It is the yin and the yang. They do live together. It is a balance. It is the male and the female. I always love to talk about the contrast. But I also, in conversations that the crew was having, or fence company, some things came up, and this person said, I don't like this toxic energy. And I just said, I'm really wanting us to look at even the word toxic, because people right away make that bad. Like that's dark, like that shouldn't be. No, it's here. It's a toxic situation. Can it be altered? If not, you have a choice. You can do something else with it. It's not, oh, that's bad, cut it out of your life, because they use that excuse in toxic relationships, which I know there are the ones to cut out. But sometimes it gets to be such a justification for just like, I'm out of this relationship like that because they can't deal with it or aren't willing to be with it or whatever it is. So those are all the situations coming up in life. It's going to come up in life, no matter how we label it. And then that place in the center of the yin and yang is that comfort place that you're talking about. And Elias, for you to turn it around so quickly with your daughter is such a beautiful example, because it made me think of now my situation with my daughter who's grown, and I let it be in a different way because sometimes the other person's not ready, but it's like, she needed time. I needed time. And I would say it's taken almost a year. It wasn't a horrible situation with each other. All of it was, I could see the progression of healing. And there weren't like continuous arguments or harsh feelings. They were just like zaps and bites and zips a few times in that whole year. They were hurtful from time to time, but it's getting through what all life hands us, and we end up naming it, labeling it dark and light. And then that's my comfort, is let it be. And yeah, I don't like it. It could be called dark, and it's part of what we deal with. So I can shine my light on me and I can shine it on the situation and let it shift. Allow it to shift, because in my heart, I am holding that it is going to, just like you were with your daughter, but you did something about it like that. So, yeah. So this morning, today's my daughter's birthday, and she called me and acknowledged me for happy birthday day. The reason it touches me is because that's the first time in her life that she's done that. And I started that with my friends, long ago, when she could roll her eyes at it, because I was making it about me. But anyway, yeah. So that was a beautiful gift that she gave me on her birthday.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
I think that's another beautiful aspect of children, right? As they're just so often mirrors, and they either bring out of us what needs to be changed and addressed, or they refuse to participate in things that are no longer fitting, and they really are amazing. Yeah, I mean, I've put mine through some stuff. I used to be just unaware, and when I would get angry, poison would come out, and it was like my way. And, if you don't listen to me, you're disrespecting me. And, how could you do this? And, all these things, and just the craziest ideas, that now I realize came from, my parents and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, just having that awareness and presence with our children, allowing them to feel what they're feeling and be who they are, and allowing that to be okay. Man, that is something I hungered for when I was young, and that's such a gift that we can give our children now, despite anything in the past or the craziness going on now, we can let them let them live their paths.
And we continue to give it to ourselves.
Yeah, I've noticed that with my girls too. Of like, they'll have those tantrums, they'll have that emotion, and I've learned to not shut them down, to let them have that emotion, to let them be a human being.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean I have to give in and let them have their way, but that I can still let them have their emotion about it.
Mhm.
And a lot of times what I see is that they just need to get that emotion out. They need to let some frustration out. They need to let whatever it is, the sadness, the disappointment, or, even if they're happy and they're letting out their squeals of joy.
Yeah.
A lot of times they just need to let those things out. And me saying, yeah, it's okay for you guys to have emotion. It's okay for you guys to be kids. It's okay to express. I see that like they work through it quicker. They figure it out faster than if I tried to shut it down or try to divert it or, do whatever it is. It's just, you're sad. Let's sit here in your sadness for a little bit. And my daughter, when she runs away from me or something, so all right, you can run away. Go do what you need to do. Go be in your corner. And when you're ready, I'm here. I will be here for you. And then just finding that balance of, that acceptability in their life.
I hear that reflection that is too. And you're reflecting just by being with them. You're reflecting. Your presence is that reflection for them. They get to reflect for themselves. And it works with adults too. That whenever somebody's losing it or whatever, there's not necessarily go over and, they're emoting, give them a tissue, nothing, to let them be and just be with them. And they sort it out for themselves.
Yeah.
It's even it's reminding me of that quantum physics. I won't be able to even probably talk about it, but the observing the balls going through the one slit.
Oh yeah.
Pattern that it makes. And then it goes through, I can't remember. But anyway, the observer comes and it shifts the whole thing. So
the wave particles.
The wave particles do come.
Light, and then there's the whole observation of quantum mechanics and superposition. That's a whole big topic.
Well, the observer then shifts the waves. Do they return back to the original or something?
So what it is that it appears that when we observe something, that it's almost as if the object knows that it's being observed and it fixes itself in its position.
There you go. That's
wave becomes a particle.
What did you say?
A wave becomes a particle. If you think of the wave as like open possibility, it could be this or that, then the observer kind of forces it to change into that state, whichever state it may be. Yeah.
So that's what we're doing when we're observing other people. We're letting them reflect on themselves and return to who they are. And then they're good. Quantum physics in a nutshell without knowing how to say it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, what kind of along those lines, I see it as like our own inherent struggle. We each have, the masculine and the feminine kind of whirling around inside of us, and the inner and the outer worlds and all these things. And, for me, when my daughter came to live with me, my view of all of those things was skewed and distorted. My view of what masculine was, what feminine was, a father's role, a mother's role. And, I tried to take on all those roles with a misunderstanding of what they truly were, and so now I feel it's trying to find that balance between, the nurturer and also the, kind of pusher, and the one that puts down the hard rules and consequences, and kind of all these dynamics and things that we get to play with as human beings. I kind of see that as quantum as well, right? Because we're observing and making choices and directing ourselves into the future, or affecting the world around us. It's incredible, mind-blowing.
That's something I've noticed with like my own observations is we are not our personality. Our personality is simply a tool. It's something that we've conditioned and developed to be able to use in some given situation. And I've noticed that especially with like different people that I interact with. Like this person calls for this part of my personality, and this person calls for this this part of my personality. And so I'm different with all these different people. And it almost makes me feel like I have some sort of multiple personality disorder or something. But at the same time, it's just like this is what this energy brings out of me, and I'm grateful for that. And I've had those reflections of like I really enjoy each one of my friends and each like the way that I get to interact with them, because I get to find something different about myself with who they are. And there's always that saying of yourself, or like the best way to know yourself is who you are behind closed doors. But at the same time, that's just a different personality. Who I am by myself is just a different energy than if I was interacting with somebody else. And so I think that's where we just get to find and experience life. And then once we recognize those those personality tools, we can just start taking them and be like, I'm going to try this a little bit. I'm going to try this a little bit, and start to condition yourself in a slightly different way and express the inner essence in new and creative ways.
Of that perspective. That's amazing.
You made me think of like meeting someone new, because this weekend at this festival event, I met, I'm going to say, 3 new daughters. And it ended up just by chance, we all had Scorpio rising. We found it out after we were, bonded, of course. But the experience of each of them individually was precious and different. And 2 of them were best friends. And I just said, and now we're all 3 best friends. And they just, we just all went into it. And I just thought, I would not normally say that, and yet it was all embrace. And what I get though in the one-on-one is that it's an experience of unity in that moment with that person. It's just like, yes, it's a new expression of yourself that's not familiar. And yet it is the union with that person that feels so amazing.
I think it's a creative energy that we get to have. Like, I don't necessarily think that, like, it's not that necessarily that they're bringing a certain energy out of you. Like, I think there is. I think they draw that energy out. And I think we have that creative potential. We're creating an experience together. We are using our creative powers to just create an experience. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Your energy pulls something out of me, and my energy pulls something out of you. And then we have this beautiful blossoming experience, even if it's like a negative experience. Like, how many people do I interact with and I'm like, yeah, I have no idea what to do with you, or this is awkward, or you make me uncomfortable. And that's just our bodies being like, you're a very different culture than I am, and we're creating this. And that's actually a really fun point too, is like, my friend has pointed out that we're very much like bacterial cultures. Like, your bacterial culture and my bacterial culture are completely different in a lot of ways, and so unique to who we are. And so when we're interacting, we're touching, or our energy field is interacting. These different cultures that are inside of our body are trying to navigate, how do we figure each other out? How do we navigate this new environment? And so a lot of times, like, especially in couples, you'll have, like, a lot of our issues with couples is our own biological culture trying to figure out, how do I interact with this person that's different from my family culture? And so the more you can just find those ways of interacting and relaxing and accepting the other person, and like consciously doing so, the more you'll be able to find that you start looking more like each other, or you start acting more like each other, and you're developing their culture and they're developing your culture, whether that's in a mental and physical manner or just a biological manner, like the way your body's expressing the genes and the way that it's expressing these hormones start to repattern and be different.
Resonance. Yeah. I think of it like tuning forks. If you take 2 tones and you put one in each ear, it creates that resonance, that little skip inside, because your brain is processing them. But you get 2 that are off from each other and it can make you sick. It could really mess you up. So yeah, I like that. And also the idea of like, do I want to create resonance? Like, I can decide that in an interaction when I go into it. Is this something I want to create resonance with, or that I want to kind of move away from, and our resonance needs to be separated?
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to go both ways, of be like, yeah, I want to try to resonate with this. I want to try to change. I want to try to be different. And there's times where you're just like, yeah, I'm going to go on a different path, and you choose a different path, and that's okay. It's just choices in life.
I want to bring in too that I'm going to say that what you just spoke is a discernment. And I was able to put this into words with my son I don't know, a few days ago, on Mother's Day, actually, when it came to something that he thought I was judging. And then, so then I said, well, and you're now judging. So you've made judging not okay. And then back to that conversation of like, getting through judging. Yeah, sometimes you get to find out, well, it doesn't feel so good in me either, like cut it out, or it doesn't have to be as often, or how all of that. Don't have to be picky, any of that. And if you don't explore that, then you don't get to a part of discernment. You won't even know what that is. You don't even know that that's part of the process of it. And so, once again, you are representing the high side of things. So it helps me talk about the other end of it. Thank you, which is discernment.
Yeah. Well, I think there's like you brought in awareness, and it kind of brought me back to this idea of just being aware of others and their needs and who they are, and bringing just meditating on what it is that they're going through and the life that they're living. And like I felt that draw to like meditate on my ex-wife and just be like, have more compassion for her and give her that energy of love, so that she can continue to heal as we go through this process. And I think that's something we can do for anyone and everyone, and even ourselves, and just saying like, where's that pattern of tension, and can I understand that a little bit more, and can I bring more awareness to just what is. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to know what action to take, because I get lost in that. I've always looked for the right answer, but I don't think there is a right answer outside of, can I observe, can I be aware, can I bring compassion into what somebody else is going through, and who they are and their existence.
The
I
horse
think
says you don't need to know the action. Be still and be certain,
absolutely.
and the right actions will come to you.
And you're ready to go. He's
that.
ready to go.
Bringing it back to the ambition. I think that was something that they always said in my church. They said to always be actively engaged in a good cause. And I think that the actively engaged part is a huge part of it. It's just, you don't have to know the answers. You don't have to know where you're going. You don't have to know the process. Just be actively engaged in it. And I think that's something that I've started learning with my choices lately is, can I be actively engaged in my choices? Can I say, yes, this is what I'm choosing, and accept that? And I think actively engaged doesn't necessarily mean that we're controlling it, that we're forcing it. It just means that we're present with it. We're aware in existence. We're in with the existence that is happening.
Yes, you have discerned. You know there's action. You don't need to know what. You also don't need to know why once you make the choice. It keeps you out of that why loop of like, why? Because we can always make up another reason and stay there and dwell and torture ourselves sometimes. Yeah. So I hear the freedom and choice that way. Yeah, I hadn't seen it like that before.
The horse, I mean, like you said about controlling, I don't know if y'all have ever been on a stubborn horse before, but more often than not, they respond to the energy and the soft, gentle direction and touch rather than yanking on the reins and trying to force it like a car, to take control. You have to kind of work with it. It's not just take the reins and go. There's more to it than that.
I think it's the context that we have for action, or the understanding that we have for the word action, and what that looks like and what that plays out like. Because I think Neville Goddard was the one that said that action is the most misunderstood word that we have, because what people think is that I have to be doing something. I have to be doing something. What action is energy over time maintained. So that's why the engaging in the action, like being engaged, you're putting yourself in that. You could be standing still and doing nothing, but if you're engaged in that idea, in the energy, in being aligned in whatever the inspiration of it, the actions, the inspired actions are gonna come. And that is, I'm just thinking of like all the things that have been trying to come back to me that worked, things that were constructive that I liked about myself that I had temporarily forgotten about. That's one of the things, like the certainty that I had and the unknown. I was thinking just right before this, right before getting on here, about the first time I had ever been participating in something. And the person that was putting on this event was like, I just found out, like at the end when we were acknowledging everybody, he's like, I just found out this is your first time ever doing this. He's like, I am just blown away by the mastery that you bring to what you're doing, because I would never have guessed this is your first time doing it, right? But that's the attitude that I had for whatever it was that I did. I was like, I don't need to know what I'm doing. I'ma do it, right? I don't need to be an expert in everything. And apparently that, makes you look like an expert, master. I was like,
Well, I always loved the whole idea of beginner's luck, and
Oh, yeah.
like I experience that all the time. Like I start trying to do something, and a huge reason why I get such good beginner's luck is because I'm not really trying. I'm engaged with the process. Oh, this is cool. Let me learn this, and I relax with it, and I have fun with it. And then
Right.
I go back and try to do it later, and I'm trying too hard because I'm like, oh, I know the process, and my learning cap got taken off. And no, I'm still learning. I'm still need to just clear that mind space and jump in there and act like I don't really know what I'm doing and just do it.
that reminds me of a conversation that Stephen and I had, like when Stephen came back to the community. We were talking about that. The magic of the thing, that when you first start doing it, it's magical. It's like the experience, or just like learning about magic. And then once you know what you're doing, you have expectations, you take all the fun out of the magic, and it's having that beginner's mind, the
Mhm.
innocence, the
Which is presence. You're just really right there in the moment. If you're having fun with it and you're paying attention in a whole different way. Yeah.
Like an infant and a child just absorbed in their environment and what they're doing, and the massive amount of learning that they're getting in those moments.
That's the magic. Yeah.
so we're never gonna figure out how to do this podcast thing, all right, guys? You
All
hear
right.
heard it here.
Right.
Kind of the beauty of it, though, right? Like the openness of a baby or a child, they're just like a sponge. Like you said, a good friend of mine often says, we get so stuck in this construct of our physical lives, but we don't know the soul's age. And so, like, can we be open to letting the soul work through us and just, I don't know what I'm doing. My intuition is just kind of guiding me. I'm winging it. I'm doing the thing, because we don't know how old the soul is. We don't know how many times we've done before, or where we've been, or what we've experienced. We just have this finite time with unlimited possibility around us to play with.
Yeah,
I really like you said that, because unlimited capacities that we have within ourselves, but then it's also unlimited playground. Yeah.
where we gotta cut it off.
Okay.
We'll have to stop the play at this point, but that's what we got. Be ambitious, play with it, relax, enjoy, be present,
Jeez.
and be the shift. Let that shift through you.
You've been watching Shift Hit the Fan.
Be the shift you want to see in the world.
And enjoy life. And we love you.
Yeah, we love you.
Yeah.
The end. Let the shift hit the fan. Let the shift hit the fan.